I'm Eve Decker. I'm up in Berkeley. I've been a practitioner since the early 90s and a teacher since 2012. Um, uh, got my training at Spirit Rock to be a Buddhist teacher. And I'm currently co-guiding teacher for Berkeley Insight with James Barras. Um, and I was just down with my friend Lev White. I was just down at Big Bear for the first week in December to co-lead an LGBT retreat, which was so nourishing and beautiful and inspiring. I love this community and I'm really honored to be here with you. And I'm also just like super psyched that we're all here because I really feel and believe that our practice is a very powerful portal to peace. Well, the Buddha taught about mindfulness as a really powerful way to intercept distress. He called it in the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, he called it a way to end sorrow and lamentation. And it really does do that. We find that out through our own practice, but also all the neuroscience on mindfulness is through the roof. Every possible marker of well-being is raised up when we do this simple and sometimes difficult practice of returning to the present moment. So I'm just giving this little spiel before we go in, because even for me, after all these years, and so possibly for some of you as well, it's helpful to remember why in the heck we're doing this, which is that when we interrupt the thinking mind, we come to another way of knowing, this direct awareness, this other way of knowing that's right here in the present moment, that isn't biased. It doesn't come from our causes and conditions. It's just what's here now. And it opens us to the possibility both of insight and wise response. And insight and wise response are both wisdom factors that allow us to frame and move through life with more skill, more courage, more kindness, and less suffering. So every moment of mindfulness that we have today together is beautiful, and for your sake, for the sake of everyone you know, and for the sake of all beings. So that's why we're doing it, and so glad to be here doing this with you. So I'll lead us in about 20 minutes of practice, mindfulness practice. Okay. So if you like, you can allow your eyes to gently close, but that's not a rule or a requirement. It's just something to support ease. If you find that you'd be more easeful with your eyes open at any point, that's always fine. Connecting with the fact that you have a body. Our bodies are always in the now. They're always in the present moment. It's our thinking minds that take us off other places. So feeling your body with you now. This stalwart companion. Letting it speak in its own language, which is the language of sensation. And as you feel the support of the chair beneath you and the sense of the movement of breath, aware of different kinds of sensations, maybe some neutral, some comfortable and pleasant. Often in human bodies, we also have discomfort or unpleasant sensations, physical or emotional or both. And just offering this sense of friendship and allowing to whatever awareness is taking in. Kind of a letting be. It can be very helpful to Settle with one particular set of sensations. For many of us, that's the sensations of breathing, feeling the rise and fall of breath. For some of us, it might be touch points in the body or the experience of sound coming and going. But having a home base to help settle this practice of being in the here and now. Just this much, just what's happening right now. And there's no need to take the compelling stories and the tendency to wander personally. We evolved with these thinking minds. They do many good things for us. They also stay busy. So, holding that with a lot of friendliness and compassion and patience. And when you notice you're lost in thought, gently return to this very simple lived moment and recall that you're here in community with others on a similar path, learning to be here now for the sake of all beings. meeting whatever is arising now with a friendly curiosity. Being with what's here now or returning to it. Lots of spacious compassion for whatever's happening, including getting lost. For so many of us, so much of the time, the practice is simply about returning when we notice. I'll ring the bell in about 3 minutes. In these last few minutes, just returning to here and now and allowing it to be what it is, including anything that's uncomfortable. Just holding all these different energies of being a human being in this moment with care and spaciousness and curiosity. What's happening right now? Thank you for your presence and for your practice. And again, welcome. So I want to talk about renunciation, which is it's a thing that the Buddha taught a lot. And I want to talk about its relationship to compassion and what that means for us as lay people. And I'll bring in some Buddhist teaching, but also some neuroscience, because to me it's very moving. And I super hope that it's supportive, something that I say is supportive to you today. So again, thank you for being here. So the Buddhist understanding of compassion is if you look it up in the dictionary, just the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it's the first definition is a concern for the suffering or misfortune of others, which it is. The Buddhist understanding includes ourself, and it also breaks it down as both empathy, that concern or care, but also this active component of working to alleviate suffering. So it's an active, it can be an emotion, but more it's an active understanding about how to respond to suffering, a strategy. So we can think of compassion as a sensitivity to the suffering of self and others, with a commitment to try to alleviate and prevent it. And this is very, very foundational in Buddhist teaching. It's part of the two wings of freedom. It's like we can't get to nirvana or freedom without wisdom, but also we need compassion, the other wing. It shows up all the time. Oh, I see somebody just asked me to repeat the definition. Yes, defining compassion: a sensitivity to the suffering of self and others with a commitment to try to alleviate and prevent it. So that's compassion, and I'm going to talk more about that, like why it's so useful, how it shows up in us in humans, and how we cultivate it. I also wanted to bring in this less talked about, teaching in Buddhism of renunciation, and I want to define it right at the beginning. This also comes from Merriam-Webster. The formal rejection of something, typically a belief or course of action. The formal rejection of something, typically a belief or course of action. All right, so we're going to explore these two a little bit. So compassion, okay, I'm going to start with the neuroscience. What neuroscientists are finding is that all animals have three sort of collections of emotional responses to life, and all three evolved for survival. There's the threat system, the drive system, and the soothe system. We know the threat one, we activate the fight, flight, freeze in order to stay alive. The drive one is the resource getting emotions, and the emotions that move behavior for us to acquire. And then the soothe system is the set of emotions that allow us to recuperate. And all animals have it. Mammals also, in the soothe system part, we also, not only do we have rest and digest, which is the soothe system for all animals, but we also have tend and befriend. And what happens in the main emotion of the soothe system is contentment. And what happens is in the soothe system is that we recuperate from the stresses of life, from the pursuing in the drive system, and in the defending of the threat system. We recover, we connect, we nurture. This is also the land of creativity and play. It's really a wonderful place. And most mammals, they go into drive in order to collect resources, a mate, shelter if it's needed, food. They go to threat when something is actively threatening them, and then they shake it off and they go back into soothe. A zebra can be chased by a lion, be in full terror. If the lion doesn't catch it, it shakes it off and goes back to eating grass. Within 15 minutes, it's back in the soothe system. Okay, so there's that. The Buddha taught that human suffering is created by greed, hatred, and delusion. That's the second noble truth. That's our mind going and fighting reality and creating distress. Greed can look like human beings spending too much time in the drive system, the way in which we imagine that happiness comes from acquiring. Hatred can look like human beings spending too much time in the threat system, imagining worst case scenarios, replaying terrible things over and over, projecting stuff onto others, the whole way in which we activate fight, flight, and freeze so that we're constantly in anxiety and depression, which some majority of Americans are. Delusion is the way in which the thinking mind keeps drive and threat emotions, greed and hatred, inflamed, overactive, looping over and over into drive and threat. so that we cannot rest and soothe. What mindfulness does is it gives us a little break from the looping mind. That's the default mode network. We call it wandering mind. It's typically unhappy. Of course, it does great things too, but when it's on automated pilot, it has a negativity bias and it loops into threat or drive. And mindfulness intercepts that. Mindfulness lets us know in this moment, even in this world on fire that we're in, even with our own personal challenges and pain and grief, what is happening just now? Mindfulness asks. What is happening right now? And when we're in the present moment and we're not looping into drive and threat, as we've all been deeply conditioned to do by many, many, many layers of ancestors and this capitalist society, when we're just in this moment, what is a wise response? And the wise response tends to come from the place of the soothe system. It's about compassion. Or maybe it's about courage, which is also a form of compassion. So it could be the soothe of compassion. It could be the courage of compassion. It could be, hold on a minute. I was tripping and right in this moment, I have a roof over my head and I ate lunch. Right? Hold on. Right in this minute, I can rest. Or I can create. Or I can connect. I don't have to be like tightened in with the delusion of greed and hate. We teach ourselves and each other compassion or greed or hatred. We're mammals. We want to belong. We learn and we share. It's really interesting to look at the differences in what childhoods can be like and how that affect us. And I'm going to share two different kinds of childhoods, but as I say this, know that even right up to the end of our lives, if we're fortunate to live into our 90s, we have neuroplasticity, and mindfulness and compassion practices can interject, can intervene in our own conditioning. So one type of childhood, I saw a video online of a young American neo-Nazi couple. And they were talking a lot of vile hatred stuff. The woman was sitting with a young baby, and a toddler in her two arms. And the baby was too young to be taking in the vibe of what was going on. But the toddler, you could see on his face, he was less than 2 years old. You could see his fear. If a child learns to stay in threat, to activate threat, to retell the stories of threat, they can become, a child of trauma and not even know it, and grow up and pass on those stories of threat and those behaviors of threat. We're very malleable. We learn. Story 2. In Tibet, when the Dalai Lama first heard about the self-denigration that's so common among Americans, he didn't know what it meant. He had a long, long conversation with his translator to even grasp what self-hatred could possibly be. What is that? And when he heard about it, he was really, when he finally started to understand it, he was really shocked. So the Tibetans have other issues, but self-hatred is not one of the issues Tibetans deal with. Tibetan parenting is rooted in Buddhist principles of compassion and mindfulness, and it includes treating children aged 0 to 5 with unconditional love. It says traditional wisdom in Tibetan culture suggests treating children like royalty from birth to age 5. Allowing them to explore freely and be loved unconditionally. So we learn We learn, are we safe to be in this place of connectivity? Are we safe to be ourselves? Can we love? And when we can love the ourselves and others and be connected and in this soothing place that the Buddha points us to over and over and over again, when we can be there, we experience well-being. All the neuroscientific markers that are of current research shows that self-compassion, play, generosity, loving kindness, truthfulness, all these different qualities that the Buddha teaches, basic integrity, harmlessness, they all lead to states of deep health and well-being. They're the place of recuperation where the hallmark emotion is contentment. Okay, so then the question is, how do we work with our own minds so that we can more and more experience this contentment, this well-being, and also obviously the world desperately needs it. How do we spread it? How do we share it? So one is just to name the obvious, which is education, reminding our own mind that aversion is not actually the answer, no matter how tempting it feels. And reminding our own mind that acquiring the next thing is not ultimately going to lead to satisfaction, no matter how tempting that feels. And then also, for those of us who are with others, young people, well, anyone, encouraging, supporting, that's the beauty of Sangha, the values of presence and compassion, and what that really brings in real time. This is not just some religious philosophy. This is very pragmatic and very urgent. It's touching to me how urgent it is. The one point of urgency was back in 1950 when the Burmese, particularly prior to 1950 and earlier than that, Ledi Sayadaw, but after that, Mahasi Sayadaw, when the Burmese were being overtaken by British colonialists, and they said we've got to get the main message of Buddhism out to the lay people. Had been staying in the monasteries for hundreds and hundreds of years. Got to get it out. It's urgent. And Ledi Sayadaw and one of his main younger students, Mahasi Sayadaw, released mindfulness practice for the world, for lay people. That's why we get to practice it now. Thank God for Ledi Sayadaw. But there was an urgency, like, we need this. So he released mindfulness and the heart practices out to the lay practitioners. And then Goenka and others spread it all over the world. And we're blessed by that moment of urgency and those courageous heroes. That's happening now too. The Tibetan teachers who, you had to have like three-year retreats before you could take the most esoteric teachings in Tibetan Buddhism. They're like, this is a time of urgency, and they're releasing the Mahamudra teachings for everybody. I encourage you to look into those. I won't talk about those now. I'll see if I even get to renunciation, which I want to talk about. Okay, let me talk about that. Okay, so compassion, we understand that, right? That's the choosing courage and soothing and care, including for the imperfect parts of ourselves, for the world, showing up with courage and love and resilience, like the singing people in the streets of Minneapolis, which we've been seeing from beautiful beings throughout history, the ones that show up with love. May we be those people. Okay, that's compassion. What's renunciation? Okay, remember that definition from the dictionary. I'm just scrolling up to read it to you again. Renunciation, the formal rejection of something, typically a belief or course of action. So it's not an emotion, it's a choice, it's a restraint. The Buddha said that suffering, the cause of suffering is craving. When we crave for our own avoidance of suffering, and we don't accept the truth, which is that suffering is an inevitable part of this journey, that being a human being is going to be hard, really hard at times. And we don't accept that, and instead we imagine that by accumulating stuff, which is certainly the message of capitalism, or even by resisting the present moment, imagining that over the hill of this moment is a better moment. When we are imagining that greed or a gathering or a moving towards something tastier or better or prettier or different is going to somehow alleviate all our suffering, or when we imagine that staying distracted with our protective, aggressive, or fearful, overwhelmed, all of these emotions of the threat system, when we imagine that staying with those is somehow going to keep us free from suffering, we are experiencing delusion. No matter how much we acquire or how much we aggressively push away, life is unpredictable. Anything can happen at any time. And in fact, our pursuing of acquisition or just something better in the next moment, and our protective reifying of fight, flight, freeze, and please, our protective reifying of that somehow keeps away suffering. It's clearly delusion. We're not going to escape suffering. What we can do is practice savoring and appreciating the moments of safety and connection and ease that come, the sunshine on our face, the hummingbird. No matter how brief, savor and let them nourish us. And then when the moments of suffering come, which they will and they do for all beings, learning how to respond to those with presence and compassion and courage rather than avoidance and aggression. On just a practical level, the studies that show that the difference in happiness between somebody who earns enough money to meet their needs and somebody who earns way more than that is almost none. We do need to have enough money to meet our needs. The Buddha just spoke about it as shelter, clothing, food, medicine, and community. And oh my God, do you have those things? If you do, then that's awesome. Shelter, clothing, food, medicine, and community. That's the ground. We do need those things. After that, we're moving into, we can take care of ourselves. We can enjoy life. But when we're pursuing from this sense of this is the path to happiness, we're deluded. Anything that's impermanent can't give permanent satisfaction. Rockefeller, one of the wealthiest humans in all of history, was once asked, "How much money is enough money?" And his response was, "A little bit more." That pursuit, that inflamed drive system, that sense that there's something just beyond doesn't end. And we see what kind of havoc it wreaks when we look out in the world. This sense of getting what I want and need to keep suffering at bay also, and we can look for this in ourselves, we can see it in others, but also just scan for it in ourselves and humbly accept when we notice it there, because this is a human tendency. When we have this sense of greed going on, we can take what's not given. We can take something for our own sake that causes harm elsewhere. This is something we don't, we're not required to live that way, but typically as humans we do. And as we begin to unhook ourselves from that particular behavior, taking something for myself that in fact causes harm elsewhere, as we unhook from that, we begin to feel this incredible sense of ease and peace, the bliss of blamelessness that the Buddha talked about. So when we speak of renunciation, we're speaking of releasing greed and craving. And when we speak of compassion, we're speaking of releasing cruelty and abandonment. And these are both, they're both, not only are they what we need in the world, but they're also what we need internally to rest in the internal geography that allows for the kind of insight that then underscores where we already are, which is we are all deeply interconnected. We're all vulnerable, and we all impact each other. So as you can tell, I could talk for another hour, but I'm going to stop right there. And we just have a few minutes left, and I would love to hear how this is landing for you. Any thoughts, any response, any challenge, just anything you'd like to say. Lisa.
Um, Everything that you are saying is resonating so incredibly deeply for me. And I've been into sidereal astrology for a while and what's happening in the planets. And in me personally, done many retreats at Spirit Rock. I'm an MBSR teacher, and I have been on a jet. This happened to me one other time in my life. When I came back, there's this opening that's happening. I can feel the energy in my chakras. It's coming out through my it's intense. And I'm supposed to be here talking to you and telling you this right now.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
And I've contacted Echo Bodine and some other spiritual, people who open to paranormal to see what's happening to me right now.
Mm.
Right now, as I'm speaking to you, I had wind chimes in my home when I walked in from this flight in Puerto Rico. My wind chimes in my kitchen were rotating to the left. They stopped and rotated to the right over and over and over again. And I looked this up. It is opening to divine presence. It is
Beautiful.
people from the other side, my many, many dead people that were with me all the time, trying to connect to me. If you It sounds insane, I know. And I mean, and I'm ragged from no sleep and traveling, but that is my truth to you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. I just want to check in and make sure that you're okay with this because it's a lot. Are you feeling
Oh, it's
grounded?
no, it's a lot. It's a lot,
That's why I want to
no,
know. Are
but
you okay?
no, not really.
Okay. So I recommend just allow for some simplicity,
Yeah,
feeling the just allow yourself to feel the soles of your feet. Just make
yeah,
it real simple.
yeah,
And then that sense of being connected to earth can be very helpful during times like this.
yeah. And I'm also afraid of, I know that it's not going to, I can open to this again, but it's like I'm afraid it's just gonna go away. And
Mhm.
there's something
Well,
so
it
important.
probably will because of the truth of impermanence. Things keep changing, but these deep insights stay with us and change us. So yeah, just allowing life to be as it is and taking good care of yourself in these moments of transformation.
Yeah, that's what it's transformation.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Rebecca.
Hi, I just want to say thank you so much. And I found your talk extremely interesting. And what really resonated with me is it made me see like how much of my time I spend living in this like threat system
Hmm.
state and feeling like that's going to keep me safe and free from suffering. And that just,
Yeah,
it's really a delusion. And
yeah,
having maybe a new awareness of this, like that I am spending just so much time here just will help me like see like that I need to move to a more soothing state.
that's right.
And and just in terms of how I react to things from a threat state versus how I react to things from a soothing state.
Yes.
Yeah, it just really helped me see things in a little bit new light. So
Oh,
thank you
thanks.
so
So
much.
glad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I also love what you said about the Tibetan parenting.
Isn't
Like,
that
treat our
lovely?
children, that's what all our children need. Every child deserves. So thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you,
Appreciate it so
Rebecca.
much.
Pleasure. Let's take one more. Marilyn?
Yes, thank you. I I don't want to use the word enjoy. I got a lot from your talk and I appreciate it, but give me a takeaway. Because the question you raised, I want to walk away with an answer. And
Great.
that is, how do we address the notion of renunciation in the context of the householder, the non-monk, the typical person out in the world? So what I'm taking away is to renounce the greed, hatred, and delusion
That's
that
right. That's
screws
it.
up our lives.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
what we should be giving up.
That's it. And
Okay.
it's not easy. It's swimming upstream because we have examples and reification of greed, hatred, and delusion around us everywhere.
Yeah,
So
but
that's
it's a
why we
mirror.
need Sangha.
It's a mirror. It reminds us we have it within as well.
Exactly.
Thank you for your talk today. Appreciate it. And the meditation.
Thank you, Marilyn. All right. Thanks, everybody, for your kind attention. I really appreciate it. Wonderful to be here with all you beautiful folks.
There's also a couple in the chat as well, Eve.
Ah,
Gloria said, gratitude for your teaching. Isra said, beautiful teaching, just came to the notion of restraint of reactive judgment and slowing down as something to help me reach back into observing and compassion.
that's great.
Yeah, Lori says, thank you, Eve, appreciating the language that is framing what you shared today. Such simple reminders of staying present and the beauty of mindfulness, along
Mhm.
with many other offerings of thanks and
Ah,
gratitude.
so nice. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, so just putting this information in the chat again for everyone before you dip out. Ways to get in contact with Eve. Lunchtime mindfulness is also offered freely here, and while teachers do get a stipend, we also love to invite folks that if today's teaching touched you, that you're more than welcome to offer Donna at the spaces below. There's a PayPal as well as a Venmo link there as well. And then aside from that, thank you so much, Eve, for being here today,
Thanks, Kiki. Really
the
appreciate you letting
guidance
me
and your
share.
presence. And thank you, everyone who attended. And we'll see you next Wednesday at noon.
Bye.